Now, because we are running out of time, we just have about 4 minutes, I want us to take a quick look at what is on page 3 of the pull out of the standard paper. And Judiciary and ICT Ministry to partner in digitizing court records for efficiency. And I want to broaden this conversation to the aspect of how we are managing cases in this country. The other time that we had the Chief Justice giving a state of the judiciary report, he said what have been said over and over again, that digitization of court processing needs to be done to make sure that we're able to deal with the case backlogs and efficiency in handling cases. We see a case in the papers of the Anglo leasing that happened during the first term of President Mwai Kibaki. It has not been cleared yet. So how would digitization and ICT help in that process if you have to be serious in dealing with these situations?
I'd like to have a go at that, having worked at the judiciary and having been involved in digitization in Kenya law and IEBC. I think the problem is not digitization will not make the judiciary efficient. What will make the judiciary efficient is, first of all, are you efficient and operating at an optimal level using your manual method that you're using? That's number one. Number two, again, digitization will not solve your problem. If you don't have even internet facilities in all the courts, you're not utilizing the already existing technology that you have in place. And I would ask the media, I want you to write a story. Take a walk today to Milimani law courts. You'll see big TV screens in every courtroom. They're not being used. You'll see big, you know, they look like mini servers. They are not being used.
What are those TVs for?
That's what you should be asking. That's what the media should be asking. You should also ask yourself that they have a building, the Court of Appeal, that was supposed to be at Upper Hill. That was fully loaded with audio-visual technology paid by the World Bank.
So where
it was one of the reasons why the Court of Appeal refused to move into that building, because you could watch the proceedings real time provided you had the IP address. So first of all, we've got to change the mindset of the judicial officers and the judicial staff to embrace technology. So do not introduce a new technology. Use what you're already using. You find that they're still writing by hand. There are many young magistrates there. Why aren't they typing? They should be able to type faster than they write. So there's processes like that. There is, they're still writing by hand. They're not even keeping an electronic diary. Today, I share a diary with my children who are under 10, which is electronic, that we use the telephone. So if they cannot even digitize the most basic things within the judiciary, then I think the talk. And I would like you to write a story of the journey, how much money has been voted every single year for digitization. It's not the money, it's not the partnering, it's changing the mindset and letting them embrace technology.
And let me pick it from there, Carol. She makes a good point, because my next question is that this specific story is talking about how judiciary and IT are coming together to solve some of these loopholes. Ajira, the program, was launched 2 years ago. Why are we still having this discussion 2 years later? Should it not be a matter of a report? This is what we've been able to do with Ajira, the program, with the Jumshero's docket, with judiciary. Not saying 2 years after the launch that we are now, you know, we're having this conversation.
Firstly, with respect, counsel, senior counsel, I beg to differ. Digitization, I am persuaded that digitization makes everything efficient. But the question we need to ask ourselves, are we willing to allow for efficiency in the judiciary? Are we willing to allow for scrutiny? Because what digitization shall do is bring about, if you're having court cases in real time, you're having storage of records, right? Because one thing that happens over and over again, we all know, files go missing. So if that was digitized and put up in the clouds, right? So it will be a question of just click of a button, records are produced. So in direct response to your question, I believe there is no willingness, and I support what my senior counsel is saying. There is no willingness. There needs to be a paradigm shift. If a paradigm shift in the mindset that digitization will be good not only for yourselves, for accountability, but for the greater good of Kenyans, right? And if there are persons in any, and the good doctor here tells me he does consultancy, management consultancy, if persons in a team are unwilling to embrace, right, why don't we shut them off? because, as you say, they're younger magistrates. We don't even need stenographers, right? Type away, adapt what is there. And if you're unwilling to adapt it, the buck actually stops with a current Chief Justice. He needs to take leadership, right, and drive this agenda through. Producing report after report really does not help anybody.
Well, I think one last point on this. You must remember, and I'm saying let's look at the history. Digitization is a good thing.
Absolutely.
But the question is, why isn't it that they've never gotten it right? One, I know that UNDP funded the scanning of all court files, so that if the physical file got lost, there was a backup for the original one.
Was it done?
The World Bank funded digitization. This is during my tenure. We signed the Judiciary Performance Improvement Program. We devoted a lot of money to be able to do this. We also had the NYS during my tenure. We had the NYS secretarial team come in and type up the backlog of judgments or proceedings that were pending. They haven't been able to do it. You must remember that some of the Canadian court proceedings are transcribed at the EPZ here in Kenya. They are also transcribed in some offices. There are companies that are transcribing. They send the audio, and overnight Kenya types it, and they are able to send it back to them. So if we're able to do this for other countries as businesses, it means the judiciary has not embraced it. So it is not the lack of funds of the one today. We must go further and say, do they really want it, to be able to digitize? But you cannot embrace a high level of digitization when you are not able to do the basics, and that people are not properly trained, or that there is not a general acceptance within.
All right, Mheshimiwa, unfortunately out of time, but I don't want to lock it for Dr. Chris, and I want to know just very quickly your thoughts in enhancing efficiency at the judiciary in light of all this conversation.
Of course, now the trend is digitization everywhere, and that's why you've seen things like in the examination, we had things like NEMIS, thanks to Professor Magoha. Right now, we are going to have a Huduma Center, which is coming under NIMS. Digitization is the way to go. But when you look at the judiciary, we also need to look at the culture. We need a total paradigm shift. Many of those old judges, are they willing? Are they willing? And should be the one to lead from the front. So maybe they should be trained. I know of another friend of mine, a judge, who tells me he has not gone to the computer class and he doesn't have time to do that. So really, it is an issue. Before you do a paradigm shift, there must be sensitization so that they get to know how is it going to add value in terms of efficiency. For example, these issues of a court file is lost will be something to do with the past if they are digitized. So there's a lot of value, but they need to be trained. There must be that culture of that paradigm shift.
Most likely those are in the minority, those ones who are not techno-savvy, but is there any sinister motive why people would refuse to go through the digitization and enhancing efficiency of the judiciary?
I think it's about mindset. I think it's been how many years since that World Bank program was begun?
10 years, yeah.
I think there is something about the mindset which we need to do in terms of more recruitment of judges. The new recruitment of judges, a precondition to it will be, this is the system we are moving to. You must demonstrate that. But lastly, I sit in the ICT committee, and I need to say that the Ajira thing was started a little later, I think further down the line after the World Bank program. This was dealing with Huduma, then they went into the partnering with the police. I think the benefit of doubt should be given to them. They probably now will be able to do what the judiciary has not been able to do. Lastly, if you're going to digitize, it is not going to be useful to us if it does not achieve the principles under Article 159, which is access to justice, speedy resolution of cases, and being able to deal with, yes, the big elephant in the house now, corruption. If we are doing election petition cases in 6 months, digitization should be helping us to doing corruption cases in 3 months.
All right, thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Unfortunately, we don't have so much time to go to the story about the sugar sector and the agriculture with the National Cereals and Produce Board. So much going on, but
I have to talk about the fertilizer, surely. Yes, I mean, I've seen here that the minister indicated that they've released the 2 billion for fertilizer, and then he says, I hope the question is, will it arrive before on time? Let me tell the minister, people have finished planting. Actually, there's only very few people who haven't finished. Go to Wasingishu and see it. So the fertilizer is not going to help us. So telling us that you have released money is an activity. It's not a result.
This is another scandal, because initially they had said they're not going to provide subsidized fertilizer. And I wonder, for the Jubilee government, one of the big four agenda is food security. How do you achieve food security and yet you cannot give subsidized fertilizer? So to me, Mwana Kiunjuri, this is another scandal. Already people have prepared, have bought the fertilizer. How long will it reach? It's going to reach the ground in June. Who is going to utilize that in June? And that's the scandal.
All right.
All right. Of course, NCPB was supposed to procure 2 million bags of maize. You don't have a report of whether that has been done, but you've never seen any delivery being made at the NCPB stores. Carol Maina Mwangi, Dr. Chris Omola from Kiminini, Gladys Boshele from Wasingishu, and Anthony Lodge from Mathare constituency. Thank you so much for making time for us.